What is up? How we doing? Welcome to the show. Episode 25. We've just been sort of working our way through it. I'm very excited. I love doing those, and especially with all of the coronavirus stuff happening, this has been a really positive outlet for me. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. It really means a lot to me. And let's talk about OP. Let's get into it. Let's do some stuff. I want to move this to really center it, right? Get the SF and the visual right to symmetry. I don't know. All right, so let's see. What are we talking about today? Something very exciting. Oh, right. When to stretch and when to stay in your lane. Okay, so the reason I wanted to talk about this, it especially within the context of OP and COVID-19. So one thing that I have really seen that's been kind of incredible is obviously just the outpouring of feeling and doing the thing, and like everybody's pitching in and trying to social distance and self quarantine, and businesses have more limited hours, and the grocery stores are opening up an hour early just for elderly people, and they're only letting a certain number of people into stores at a time. Like, just a lot of genuine concerted effort to try to flatten the curve. And it's really heartening in a lot of ways. But it's also a very uncertain time, and it's very scary. And I think that there is a lot going on that that we all just aren't really prepared for. That we don't we don't really have a precedent for something like this, right? We have a precedent for floods and hurricanes and tornadoes, and anybody who lived through Hurricane Sandy, if you were on the East Coast, right? Like, that was terrible, and people were dismantled for weeks. People lost. I mean, that was a true catastrophe disaster, right? Hurricane Katrina level things, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, right? Like, these are mega disasters that are awful, but we don't not have a precedent for it. Whether or not shit happened, that's a separate issue, because the world is on fire in a number of different ways. But we at least theoretically know what should be done and how to theoretically proceed, right? Not with this. Last time we had something like this was 1918, when we all got the Spanish flu. Like, what? Okay, so let's unpack this for a second, right? Because I've seen a lot of comparisons to Spanish flu, and I've seen a lot of comparisons to World War I. I want to go with the World War I analogy, just because I think it is. I think it's a little more interesting. I don't know enough about the Spanish flu epidemic to really comment. But that time period, right? This was a time in which, we're sort of now post-Reconstruction America. We're doing the thing, industrialism is starting to take off, right? It's becoming a real thing. And then all of a sudden we got World War I. And we've never really had a precedent for a world war, right? We've had the 100 Years' War. We've had plenty of wars, right? We've had, the Revolutionary War, the French Revolution. Like, there's a lot, obviously, all of the wars, throughout history in Japan and China. Like, the concept of war is not new, but the idea of so many different countries from both sides of the prime meridian being involved in a war is kind of bananas. And so I think that, not that I was around then, let's be clear, I fucking barely got through All Quiet on the Western Front. Like, I am not a World War I expert, but I do think that it is not an accident that it was the Industrial Revolution and that really taking off and really taking hold, both in Europe and the United States, that caused all of these countries to finally be able to, need to, want to engage in this kind of mass conflict, right? So I think that we can't separate the technology from all of this. But the reason that I bring that up compared to now is that we have this, I think there's somewhat of a comparison, right, between like the Industrial Revolution in the early 1900s, right, late 1800s, early 1900s, the digital revolution in the late, 1900s, early 21st century, right? Like we're now at that point where the internet is just a part, like it is a utility, right? It's just utilities. So like we have to acknowledge that, and we have to acknowledge that like our response to this is informed by the technology, but I think that you can also make a case for like it's a little bit exacerbated by the technology as well, right? Because 100 years ago, the idea of screening somebody for, have you been to China recently, if you live in New York, is kind of a laughable question. Like, the odds of somebody from New York City or Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia visiting China for fucking anything in 1918, you would have to take like a train across the country for weeks and then like get on a boat to China, do whatever the fuck you're going to do in China, then get on another boat back and then take another train. No, nobody has been, right? Like the amount of time it would take for somebody to like, they would have to have been in China hanging out with patient zero, like literally making out with, licking the face of patient zero, immediately getting back on a boat by the time news even broke, right? And yes, I did say making out and segue into licking faces, because if you're not licking the other person's face when you're making out, does it even really count? I don't think so. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I bring all of this up within the context of today and the coronavirus and the lockdown. And like, you have like, it's been wild to see how people are responding, not just in my own little microcosm, but on a more national scale, right? Like last night, I listened to a little half-hour desk concert that Matt Nathanson put on, one of my favorite singer-songwriters. Right now, as we speak, Indigo Girls is live on Facebook giving a concert. Just fucking giving a concert because they're Indigo Girls and they're doing a little Q&A and they're like, fuck, there's not a lot we can do to help, but like people like our music, let's give a free concert because we're all stuck inside. And it really has sort of given me pause and made me think about why this time it's not easy for anybody. But I think that there are certainly degrees of how helpful certain people feel compared to others, right? So I know a lot of people who spent a lot of time already building up their digital brand, transitioning into just doing more digital stuff is not a big deal. Like, again, it's a big deal for fucking everybody. Wash your hands. But like, it's not like, oh my God, my entire business doesn't exist anymore, right? It's not, we have to shut down production of every television show because we cannot be within 6 feet of each other. right? Like, it is a safety hazard for us to be in a scene together on camera, right? Like, it's not like that, right? It's not like you're a restaurateur who relies on people physically coming into your restaurant for food, right? So that's what I mean by, like, we're really starting to see the degrees to which we are reliant on technology. And I think that is informing some of this initial response, right? So a lot of the people who are sort of already in the internet space, doing motivational stuff, doing whatever, they're like, all right, I'm out of work. This is what I do. Let me use this opportunity to still keep teaching class. And they'll just fucking turn on their phone, Instagram Live, and be like, all right, we're doing an hour class together right now. You're like, oh shit, okay, we're doing an hour-long class. Great. You know, or someone like Indigo Girls or Matt Nathan, right? These are people who are like, I have found my lane. This is what I do. This is my contribution to society. My contribution to society is music, right? Yo-Yo Ma is doing the same thing. Just throwing a camera on himself and being like, I'm going to play some cello music for you guys because I was put on this earth to play the cello and make people happy. So if I can do that, it is my emotional and professional responsibility to do so, right? But I think that certainly me, let me just, get the popcorn because Sally over here is projecting, right? Like, very much me. But I have also seen this in a lot of other people that, you have on top of the hypervigilance, on top of the general anxiety, on top of the general mishigas of feelings and things, right? On top of all of this, there's this feeling of, I don't know what my lane is. And it's something, just to bring in, to OP terms for a second, like, I am a glass lizard, which means that I am at my best. Let me rephrase that. It's not that that's what this means, but this is how it is manifested for me over the years in a number of situations, right? That my job in life is to be the balanced one. My job is to see everything from every angle. My job is to go, okay, right, I get that. I see that. Right now, we need to water that part of the lawn. Okay, yeah, good, got it. You're taking care of that. All right, this area is looking a little bare. It's fine now, but we're going to need to address it in the next couple of months. So let's put together a plan to make sure that just gets hit. But stay on that because that needs immediate attention. And just sort of like moving the people, including myself, around all the different areas of the lawn to make sure that the grass continues to grow, it stays maintained, and doing that, right? It's like, that's what I do. That's what I'm really good at. That's what I put on this planet to do. And there's a teaching component to that. There's a performance component to that. There's a learning component. But again, it's like I'm very much all over the map, but it's all within service of maintaining the law, right? And saying, okay, well, what needs our attention, my attention at any given moment, right? Well, in a time like this, that attitude is surprisingly not as helpful as you would think at first, right? Because one of the big things that I've really, really been struggling with is, well, what the fuck do I do? Because I see all of these people doing shit, being like, I got it. This is what I do. I am a dancer. A dancer dances 5, 6, 7, right? And they're like, okay, I'm going to teach a dance class on Insta. I'm going to connect people to people. I'm going to give a little desk concert. I am going to put my copywriting skills to work. I am going to volunteer for the like whatever it is. They're like, I got it. And in a lot of cases, this is an opportunity for people to go, all right, saviors, let's fucking go. Let's do it. And if everybody just indulges their saviors as a community, as a global, whatever fucking community, all of our bases get covered. That's obviously not exactly how life works, but we're seeing glimpses of that right now because we're seeing spiritual leaders offering spiritual advice. We're seeing musicians giving away their art for free. We're seeing just a bunch of people doing what comes naturally and most effortlessly to them. But if you're in the wellness space and you are a growth mindset and you have made it a priority to be balanced, well, then what the fuck do you do? Well, it's going to be tough for at least another couple of weeks. I am confident that once April 1st hits, I think that will be a shift. Like, I think that's going to be a big energetic shift. First of all, because that is when a lot of the institutions that were ordered to close for 2 weeks will be allowed theoretically to get up and running again, right? So that's the first thing. And then I think on April 1st, we will have a clearer idea. How long is this thing really going to last? What systems are we going to start to put in place to make sure that we are sustained emotionally, physically, financially? That's the time when people start to ask those questions like, all right, if we're going to be in this state for another month, then like, yeah, all right, I might stay here in LA. But if it's like, yep, it's just going to be 3 months of this, I'm going to be like, yeah, no, I'm going home. I'm going to spend time I'm just going to live with my parents, go run groceries, go run errands for them, help take care of them. They'll take care of me a little bit. Fuck it, I'll deal with the apartment somehow, some way, I'll guess, whatever. But like, I think that April 1st, that's the date that I am setting of like, okay, use this time to feel whatever you feel about global capitalism, develop some good habits, keep going, and just get through the day to day. We're not trying to look beyond tomorrow. Oh my God, what's the lyric? I'm fucking this up. For the first time, I'm thinking past tomorrow. That's not your job yet, Hamilton. You're good. You're good, right? You don't need to think past tomorrow yet. You just don't. You just got to make it through the day to day for now. Once April hits, now we got to start asking some real questions, right? But we're also going to have more information. We will see the effects of 2 weeks of curve flattening, right? We're going to be able to see, okay, we're still ramping up in cases, but this is the ramp up with the enforced social distancing versus, oh, if we hadn't done anything, the curve would be here. Okay, great, right? So, we're just going to have more information, not only externally, but internally as well, right? We're going to have a much clearer understanding of who we are, how we operate without all of these external structures propping us up. And that's hard, but it's really important that we do it. And I just sort of want to end on this. One of the big things that I've really been struggling with is the teenage temper tantrum. It's not fair. Why now? And the reason that I feel that way so strongly is not just because I'm a 16-year-old girl on the inside, because I am. I just am. That's just reality. You see, look, tell me that should not be hanging in a 16-year-old girl's room, and I will call you a liar, right? But on a more important level, it's because, look, I moved to LA in August, and I was like, okay, I have a lot of bad habits. A lot of them stem from my overconsumption of social media and reliance on digital connection. I need to invest in my body and physical socializing and really get out there and be in the room with people. All right, I'm starting to see some progress. I've started to invest in, social groups and classes and my weekly brunch that I go and I see my friends. I get the same thing again, building the routine, building the physical structure. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. Like, we're making progress. And then for this to come in and just take my sandcastle away, I'm like, motherfucker, really? Why? Right? But to that I say, there's never a good time for this, right? It's like, when they say, like, if you want to have a kid, have a kid. There's never going to be a perfect time to have a kid. There's never going to be a perfect time to get married. There just isn't. That's not how this works. And I'm even going to throw out there that, like, this is not the worst time for this to be hitting. Like, we're in kind of a lull. There's not, like, wedding season hasn't ramped up yet. Tax season's a bitch. I can't even imagine, like, what that is, people going through with that. But, like, it's not like, oh my God, like, if this had happened, imagine instead of it being March 19th, imagine it was October 19th. Imagine it's November 19th right now. Imagine it's November 19th right now instead of March 19th. Very different scenario, guys. Like, very, very different. Right? Now we're like what? Right? But March, I think it's pretty safe to say that March is not a major, mega time across the board, right? Obviously, I definitely feel for student athletes at this time because they're counting on these championships to sort of set up the rest of their career and their future as a professional basketball player or baseball player, whatever. Like, if championships are getting canceled, that hurts a certain subset of people, absolutely. But, like, there are worse times for this to happen than in March in a lot of ways. So I just want to close with, like, you're doing great. The fact that you are watching this means that you are alive. You don't have to think past tomorrow yet. You just don't. And I realize that this got a little, blaster ENFJ-ish. But I guess to sort of wrap it up and try to talk about the title of this video, I think it's important to be able to recognize just where you are at on a day-to-day basis. Because there are going to be days when you're like, you know what? I am going to learn. I am going to dust off the guitar that's been sitting in my closet and start to chip away at that. Cool, right? Stretching yourself, doing new things. There are also going to be times when you're going to want to be like, no, I just need to do what's easiest for me. You know what I'm really good at? I'm really good at being a mom. I'm really good at going to the grocery store and making food for my kids and helping them with their home, whatever it is, right? Like, if you're like, I just need to focus on my kids for the next 2 weeks, because if I don't, then I'm going to go crazy. Great. Fucking do that too, right? The time to stretch and the time to stay in your lane, it's a day-to-day process. You could even argue that it's like, from morning to afternoon, you could be feeling different kinds of ways. That is fine. You just got to acknowledge how you're feeling. You just have to. Because if you pretend you're not feeling the way you're feeling, you can't solve the feeling and you can't move on. You can't do something productive with it. And it's just going to, like, get bottled up and then come out in the worst possible way. So to all of this, just sort of wrap this up, I would say just stay in touch with yourself throughout all of this. Be really clear about what you need and do what you can to get your needs met. For me, it's going to be like, look, I've done all the DI shit that I can. I need to DE a lot. I need to blast. If I don't blast, I will go nuts. So I just need to start setting it up and just fucking blasting at a consistent time. And for those who follow me on the Facebook or the Instagrams, you can find me on Instagram at the Jolly Raja. You can find me on Facebook at Raja Burrows. I'm going to be starting to go live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to try to stick to that routine. Just hopping on for half an hour for whatever it happens to be. It's going to be like a little 21st century church service is sort of how I'm thinking of it. Is just a time to come hang out with me. I'll share my thoughts and my feelings about how we're all doing, take some questions from you guys, and we're just going to get through this together. All right. Thank you so much for listening and watching. It means the world to me. Be sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends. I can't wait to see you for the next one, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.